Hello everybody, this is Simon with Let's Play Sonic 2006, and we got the same couple of people here helping me out again to make this into something that is not just a super boring slog to watch. It's still gonna be a super boring slog to watch, but it's not gonna be one to listen, I'm pretty sure. Say hello one more time, please.
I am Heavy Sigh, and honestly, it's just so weird looking at Aquatic base like this.
I'm NGDBSS, and,
Two robots!
I guess
Two!
we know where Resident Evil 6 got one of its story ideas.
You know, actually, now that this brings up an interesting question, this is supposedly in the story of this game. This wasn't like an Eggman base, this was something the Solianans made up for themselves.
Yeah.
Didn't work. Yes.
In their crazy time experiments. But I guess
Wasn't it an energy experiment first and foremost?
supposedly, but they're using like a crazy time god for it.
I didn't know that. Maybe. I don't know.
Isn't that like
Listen, the
the
excellent scientist.
backstory of Solaris or Iblis or whatever?
Yeah, Solaris is supposed to be some crazy time god thing that's normally just like a little fire. And then when they experimented on him, they gave him like super ultra god powers. Somehow. You really gotta wonder about what these fantasy scientists are doing, that this can go this wrong.
They're doing something wrong, obviously.
I mean,
Yes,
at least they're not the god learners from Glorantha.
Like, honestly, in some of
We're
these
gonna
games,
have
I'm
to
pretty
run that
sure,
by me
like,
again.
what kind of control experiment do you make for experimenting on a weird time god? Like, what's your research methodology for that?
Well, you use the Time God power-up machine, but you don't put the Time God in. Instead, you use a Cantaloupe or your own daughter, I don't know.
Oh, man.
But, you know, as a scientist myself, I have plenty of ideas, but I would have to see how your instrument works and read the manual, maybe. Sometimes I do that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, whenever you see this stuff, it's really like scientists are just like wizards. But, like, they have different nomenclature for everything. That's the difference in many of these games. If you're a scientist, you're just
This
a
door
wizard.
doesn't open if you don't kill that guy. Why did I get hit there? I don't know. But yes, I agree. As a scientist, many scientists in media are not written by scientists, so people don't actually know how science works. On the other hand, lots of science is extremely boring, so yeah.
Well, I mean, look, if you just
The
want to make
ball.
wizards, just make wizards.
We are not taking the ball.
Oh, man. I like how it's
I mean, coming up
interesting.
with some fun technobabble is cool. It's fine.
Yeah, that's
Like,
fine.
I've read
Like, it's
plenty of
fun.
science fiction where I'm like, this is not scientific, but whatever.
Oh, textures.
Yeah. Also, nice way to reorient. This is, by the way, this is absolute garbage control. You notice that this is not like meant to be functioning in any way.
Yeah.
But I've got an okay at it, so whatever. Remember this part?
God, the dummy ring bombs.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably why the rings have physics, right? Just use the same code.
I mean, I guess, but still, what kind of idea possesses you to make fake versions of the rings you want people to collect and then give them both physics?
I don't know. Did you notice something why I was faffing about a little bit? They removed the spring. You now have to fly up here using the side platforms. It's harder? Question mark?
I mean, I guess it's. I mean, you gotta play as Tails, so I mean that is harder, but
Yeah, it's a difference. I'm okay with that. It's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, sure, do stuff like this all the time. I'd be happy with that. Just like switch it up a little bit. God.
somehow
Rings.
you will never find the real one.
Damn thing.
Honestly, I think they should have made fake rings just off yellow or something like that.
Yeah, there is plenty of things they could have done here. Like, for example, not give him ring bombs.
Because like I'm pretty sure the actual ring bomb code is like reused from like the very first demo they had for this game. And like,
Oh yeah, what's the diegetic explanation for ring bombs specifically anyway?
he had it in like a previous game at some point. I think it was Tails
Tails
Sky Patrol.
Adventure, I think. Sky Patrol? Yeah, Sky Patrol. Yeah, right.
And like it just became
but
a thing he had.
Bit of a deep cut there, yeah. Like in the normal mode, you can't just fly over here, like whatever.
Yeah, what are these guys
But
gonna
of
do?
course-
Shoot at me? That's never been
Yeah.
a threat.
Sadly, they are gonna do that. Has anybody ever mentioned, did I mention, that how fully idiotic it is that Sonic is following you here? Like, the entire point of this section is like, oh, I can't fly, Tails, please open the door for me. What's the supposed canon happening here?
Maybe
That-
they know about how, like, assist characters are immortal and can just teleport places. But, like, you give up your autonomy to do it, so that's why they know about it.
God.
Sonic tags out.
Yeah, like, literally, like, they know, like, Sonic knows from Sonic 2 that whoever's in the assist position is totally invulnerable and cannot die. So he has to give up his autonomy, but he can get past stuff.
Oh, that's
Oh
deep.
dear, this has reminded me of some game with an AI buddy who would just pop around to follow you as necessary, but would sometimes just fall in pits or something like that.
It's this game.
No, it was something else.
2D, 3D?
I don't know. Like, I will admit I may be bundling several things together.
Wait, did he actually say that in the first, in like the normal mission of the game?
I
don't think
it
he
might be
thanked
in new
Tails.
lines. Sometimes it happens that they have some new lines there.
Because I love that just makes me think, are they actually new lines, or is there like some dummy code that like doesn't work in the regular stages?
It's difficult to say. I mean, they have plenty of lines that just never quite play well. Like, currently I'm recording Shadow, and there is definitely a tutorial message for the buggy that only sometimes tells you that you can use what's it called, the boost, which might be only playing when you replay the mission. And there is definitely a lot of dialogue that gives you hints when you fail at a boss. Like, as in, you die.
Okay, I know this game was made on the cheap, but like this is literally just the start of the level again.
It is.
Just like, I really do have to wonder what like the argument was at Sega offices for some of this, because like it's extra work. You could just not have that section, but instead it has to be copy pasted.
It's the last level. It needs to be epic. That means it needs to be long, right? Question mark. I really hate this part, by the way. That these dash pads, they send you flying like up here somewhere, and it's much less risky to use the sky gem. It's still risky, but less.
It's less risky to use the weird debug gimmick.
It's less risky to use the weird debug gimmick than it is to actually utilize the items that were programmed into the game and were supposed to work.
I'm over exaggerating. It's not that bad, but the problem is like you get careened upwards much higher than you think, much quicker than you think, and then you're just like hovering in the air for a split second, and you have Sonic's air control in this game, like that super fast, absolute no acceleration, you zip places, air control after a spring, and you have to get onto one of those narrow platforms that might be moving sometimes. No thanks. That has gotten me killed so often. That's one of those parts where we said in the last video where the game cannot be trusted whatsoever, not even by me, and I know how to play it.
The game doesn't even trust itself. That's why it gives you the option to do that.
Yeah, there's
here
another
we
guy
go.
who I don't trust right here.
Oh man.
Good lord, Knuckles is so bad.
Actually, speaking of this game's development and money, I was thinking on what all you had been saying in the thread, Heavy Sigh, about like the project and
Everything about it.
yeah, and I like something that still baffles me is that Sega basically paid Yuji Naka to leave the project and poach 2/3 of the employees.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't Yuji Naka, right? Wasn't it
No, it was Yuji
standard
Naka.
project lead? Ah, okay. You
There
must
were-
know.
there
He
were
started
By
his
the
own
way-
company. He started his own
Okay.
company like in the middle of development and went off to that. But the money for the development of the company came from, like, some grant from Sega.
Kind of. The big thing to remember about Yuji Naka is that he is legendary for being the biggest asshole you could ever work with. Like, he is legitimately legendary that even in the world of Japanese politics, where you're always supposed to be nice to your boss and, like, always count on them, people hated his guts. He was that bad.
Oof.
Sounds like the guy who should hand a project to. By the way, I didn't get to mention it, but in the latest part, they removed some of the instant kill things. So now it almost feels like there are legitimate enemies that you can actually fight. I opted not to because it would be stupid, but it's less obviously, oh yeah, you just push the button and all the enemies die, yeah. Considering that Knuckles is a guy who punches things, you only have to punch things in Flame Core as him. His outing here is like, you just don't.
The actual challenge in his outing here is that he has sticky hands and he needs to climb on walls.
Oh yeah, but I mean, that's always a challenge with Knuckles. I don't know what happened here, but it's all a little bit chaotic here because they upped the number of enemies, of course.
Well, of course, the reason that happens here is because these walls aren't actually, like, solid, so the enemies can see through them, so they can just fire on you the second you break it down.
Oh yeah, that too. But also the camera is just not built for these narrow corridors, which we just saw as well, yeah.
If we're being honest, as shown in the last video, it's not built for wide open spaces either.
Yeah, it's just not built. Anyway, I already have over 50,000 points, there's no reason to kill enemies anymore, but...
Why not?
I don't know.
They're there, why not?
It's sometimes fun. At this point it's getting really repetitive though. It's like, this level is just... There's so much combat, and none of it is good.
Well, I mean, part of it is just that it's also the lamest possible, like, setup for a secret underwater base, is that it's not really... There's no real secrecy going on in here, it's not really underwater, because water doesn't come into a play here at all, and it's barely a base, because everything's just a bunch of copy-pasted rooms.
Yeah, the level is just really boring to look at aesthetically. It's just not fun. Like, that's the biggest issue. Like, it could be epic, but it's not. Oh, that's a high score, isn't it? Awesome. I'm really good at this game, guys.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Anyway, let's close this chapter off with a few closing thoughts. Sonic Hard Mode. I got all of the medals for him now. So that's something. Here you can see all act missions in the Sonic episode with rank S. Amazing. The hard mode S ranks were not actually very hard, to be quite honest. There was like 1 or 2 where I had to re-record it more often, but the hard modes are so similar to the normal modes. It's a travesty, I tell you. But for anybody who was asking, yes, this is how you get all the 5 gold medals, and this is how you get the final gold medal for S rank on all act missions. Yes, they do count the hard mode missions, and yes, this means that it's a completely pointless and absolutely free medal when you get everything else. Thank you very much for your attention.
So it's basically achievements, but nobody told Sega. So they made their own achievement system for the game.
Yeah, more or less.
That's our Sega.